Good morning and welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of Yard. Hope things are well with you wherever you are today. I hope it's a payday for you. You can get out and have some fun. Maybe get caught up on some bills. It's nearly the first of the month. So cash those checks and come on. Some of y'all know the reference, some of you don't. But the reality of it is we still got some Mississippians around our state and some neighbors and friends in border states that are still dealing with some difficult things. Governor Tate Reeves and others met with some of the media yesterday and kind of shared some updates on that. And the one thing that I go back to, and again, I don't know the job, right? And so a lot of times we have a lot of commentary, me, you, everybody else. It's well intended, but it's kind of based out of ignorance, right? And I don't mean that with a negative connotation. Like you guys, as much fun as you think this job is that I have, it's a lot of work. I mean, it is. It's a lot of work. Then sometimes you're writing a book on top of doing all this work. And so, like every time somebody loses a password, right, or somebody's computer updates, and all of a sudden there's an issue. It's not just the writing gig. There's the customer service aspect of it, and we try to be responsive to all that stuff. And there's just a lot of stuff that goes into it that you guys never see. That's the case in every job, right? I don't know your job. Chances are I don't know it. I may have done something similar at some point in my life, but I maybe can't do it as well as you can. And so when I say these things, I want to make sure you understand I'm not trying to speak authoritatively. But I think it's fair to say that maybe we should have mobilized the National Guard a little earlier. I think that's the one thing that I would come back with and say that I think that maybe as well intended as we may have been, I think we might have underestimated the impact of the storm. And I don't know how that's even possible because it felt like we had plenty of notice. And there's only so much as a citizen you can do, right? I mean, the rain falls on the heads of the just and the unjust alike. But it just seems maybe we could have mobilized the National Guard sooner. But outside of that, I mean, we're at the mercy of nature. And I know people are frustrated. And man, I tell you, we are so incredibly blessed that we didn't have a bigger issue here in Starkville. But that doesn't mean that we're not concerned about those that did and are still dealing with some very difficult circumstances. I mean, you still see it pop up out there on socials that I think it was yesterday I read that some people in Rolling Fork may not have power for a month. That's a tough cheese, man, and so I'm not sitting here being critical of MDOT or of Tate Reeves or anybody like that. I believe that everybody does the best they can with the information they have. But I think, again, in hindsight, maybe what we learned from this is that we got to have the National Guard ready a little bit sooner. And again, that's not being critical of those guys either. I mean, they're under the direction of the governor's office. But there's some people out there that are still struggling, and we're starting to see some bounce back in some areas. But man, like even the pictures just yesterday, from extreme North Mississippi on 55. It's just been something we never expected. Because you got to think this time last week, we were thinking, okay, we got this ice storm coming in. It's been a week, right? A week. Now, thankfully, it appears that we've got most of the motorists off those frozen interstates. A lot of it's 18-wheelers, and so there's been some fallout from that stuff too. I mean, like I've had people tell me, there's just not any mail to deliver in some of these rural places because Memphis is the hub. And so it's been difficult for a lot of the mail trucks to get out there. And I'm not being critical of the USPS either, so you can save your text, okay? But I think it's important for us to understand, number one, we can learn from this, but also understand there's a lot of people that we know and that we share a state with, that are our neighbors that are still struggling. And I've had many of you that have reached out since we've had the discussions this week. It's kind of about what we're all dealing with, and people have asked, what they can do to help. And the reality of it is I don't know the best way to go through that. I would say just maybe find something locally, and then maybe make a donation there. There's a lot of people out there that try to grift when these situations come up and set up some GoFundMe account, and not truly intended to go for anybody that's suffering. It's just, enrich themselves. And so I would encourage you, if you want to donate some money, donate it to a local charity in that area that's having some issues. But nevertheless, we push ahead as we try to move back towards normalcy. But all of you in Northwest Mississippi that are still dealing with this and the fallout from this, our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers go out to you. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. We love Bulldog Burger Company, and I plan to have some Bulldog Burger Company this weekend. Not exactly sure what I'm going to have. Not yet. It's like the big moment, right? You start thinking, okay. Because sometimes the biggest crisis in my life is what I'm going to have for lunch. And that's not being silly. I mean, there's just some days I think, what in the world do I want to eat today? I can simplify that when I think, you know what, I know no matter what I get at Bulldog Burger Company, I can't go wrong. I'm kind of leaning towards that BLT salad right now. Like, that's kind of what I'm craving. But, by the time I sit down and order or we get it to go, I'm going to be thinking, do I want to get a salad or do I want to get a burger? Right? That's the thing. I can get a high-quality restaurant hamburger, or I can get my favorite salad. Right? So it's a win-win. And that is my favorite salad. So I'm going to get the spring rolls probably either way. It's wintertime. It takes a little more of an effort, to look this beautiful. So I need those spring rolls as part of my regimen. You do too, right? They will make you and everybody around you better looking. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, a place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay, we're going to start women's basketball. Yeah, man, and you know what? We needed a week like this, right? We're going to talk about the men here shortly, and we'll look ahead to the weekend. But, we needed some things to feel good about, and you guys are well aware of that because we're so emotionally invested, right? I mean, if you're like me, anytime Mississippi State is playing a sporting event, it is on at my house. I may be working and kind of peeking over at it every now and again, but when the Bulldogs are playing, that's what we're focused on. You'd say, but Steve, you cover Mississippi State. You should be doing that. You're right, but I would be doing that otherwise anyway. And I'm very grateful that we have a great team over at genespage.com to kind of help us with all this coverage. But man, that was a lot of fun last night. And Bulldogs now 16-6, 12-2 at home. It's always good. But we hadn't been great on the road, but we picked up a big one last night to advance the record to 3-5 as we go to Knoxville. And man, there were years where the Volunteers, the Lady Vols, were just our mama, I guess you could say, right? And you'll never convince me. I don't care what anybody says. Kara Lawson traveled. Okay, she traveled. She did. And I've told her that. You traveled. Well, I didn't hear a whistle. Yeah, you traveled. Kara Lawson traveled in an SEC tournament championship game against Latoya Thomas. She traveled. She panicked. She traveled. We didn't get a call. We got screwed. But things have changed last decade or so. And I remember when we lost that game earlier this year, 90-80, we were like, man, we had our opportunities, just couldn't get over the hump. And we talked about that on a Wednesday preview. What has Mississippi State learned? Well, I think it was pretty evident in the middle portion of this game. It State had figured some things out defensively to slow Tennessee down. Now, the first quarter wasn't especially promising. We only had 9 points in the quarter. And if I had told you on Thursday, hey, we're going to the house that Pat built, and we're going to get 9 points in the first quarter, what do you think our prospects of winning would have been? It wouldn't have been great, right? It wouldn't have been great. The flip side of it is we held them to 12. And so it's like, hey, we've had this quarter of offensive futility, but we're just down 3. And then State explodes in the second quarter. I mean, absolutely killed Tennessee in this quarter on both ends of the floor. A 26-14 quarter. So State's up 9 at the break. And you think, well, okay, that's a good coaching staff at Tennessee. They're undefeated in conference play. They've been incredible at home. They'll bounce back. Give Sam Purcell and his staff a lot of credit. We came out in that third quarter, and it was basically a mirror of the second quarter. This time State only wins it by 8. but it's a 24-16 quarter. So in the middle quarters in this game, State outscores Tennessee in Knoxville 50-30. That typically gets you wins. Now, we've had some games before, obviously, that we have been ahead or at least in the ball game headed to a fourth and have been unable to close. Now, Tennessee does outscore us in the fourth, but we got some big baskets late. And there were times that Tennessee would kind of get on a roll, and then we would get an answer. And that's what happens, like when you start thinking about the emotional bubble of the team that's chasing the game. It's like, hey, we get a basket, we get a stop. Hey, we get a big three, we get an and one. We're going to do it, ladies. And then next thing you know, you give up a basket in transition, or you give up an offensive rebound. And Nwodozie was outstanding. I thought down the stretch we got a little bit reckless at times with the baseball pass, but we were athletic enough to go out there, make some plays, and get it done. And so State wins at 77-62. Big win. Obviously not just for the season, but I think for Sam Purcell, I think people need to get comfortable, right? And I think we have a good coach. I think we have a guy that loves being here and a guy that wants to be here, and that makes a difference. But now you start thinking about, you had the big win over Kentucky, and that can be, a net climber for us. Same thing with this Tennessee game. Not to mention the road win, right? The road win means so much more. It's the SEC road win against a top 15 team, and now Tennessee will kind of help us. We split with them, which is, and maybe we optimistic we thought we should have. We thought maybe we'd take the game here and then lose up there, but you get the flip, and it works out really well. Let's kind of look inside the numbers here, too. Carissa Richardson, the thing with her is it always seems when State has the big win, she is very much involved in things. And there have been some games, too, she's kind of disappeared on us a little bit. Well, it's not last night. Man, you talk about an outstanding ball game. 21 points, 9 of 11 from the floor, knocks down one big three, pulls down 4 rebounds, plays 29 minutes, 1 foul. She did have 6 turnovers, and she handed out 1 assist. But we knew that Tennessee was going to be a little bit handsy. We knew that they would be able to get out there in the passing lanes and pick our pocket every now and again. But a big game for Carissa Richardson. Trayana Crisp with 15 points, pulled down 5 rebounds, too. Got in a little bit of foul trouble, but kind of played smart down the stretch and was able to give us 32 quality minutes. Madison Francis down the stretch, too. How great is she going to be, right? How great is she going to be? A dozen points and 10 rebounds, and I thought that last defensive possession for us, like the game is over. And Tennessee's just trying to play, just kind of run out the clock there and try to get one more basket. And Madison still goes up and defends it and turns her away. And we end up dribbling it out. And you love that competitive fire. She's 5 of 6 from the floor, knocked down a 3-point basket too. But again, we talk about the future of this program. Well, there you go. We talked about Nwodozie, 11 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 of them on the offensive end. It gave you a chance of some second-chance points, and a couple of those were hers. There were a couple times, too, that I thought Tennessee got a little bit physical down there and didn't get called for it, and she just kind of played through it. That's one of the things I like about her. She has some poise. She's just trying to put the ball in the basket. She's not necessarily just trying to get a call, and then when she doesn't get that call, she doesn't turn and whine about it. You love that. Destiny McFall, 9 points, 6 rebounds in 35 minutes. And again, our starters played a lot in this ball game. Off the bench, Chandler Prater had 2 points, but gave us 11 good minutes, especially on defense. And Jaleel Lampley with 7 in 9 minutes of action. That's a nice contribution, but just 9 points off the bench. The starters had to get it done, and they do. The Bulldogs shoot 48.2% from the floor, 44% from beyond the arc. And when you're on the road like that, even if you're not a high percentage, long distance team, you got to get some made baskets. You got to be efficient on that end of the floor, and you got to be able to hit a big shot late. And we hit a couple of those as we begin to separate. And stayed 75% from the free throw line. Flip side of things, Tennessee shoots just. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. A lot of people are going to be talking about a new year means a new you. Well, that's not necessarily the case. How about a less burden you? Therapy can help more easily identify what weighs you down and holds you back by offering a very unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, your motivations, and your emotions. I'm a person that absolutely believes in therapy. I think everybody needs someone they can tell everything to. Perhaps you're in that situation too. We're going to ask you to give our friends at BetterHelp an opportunity to help you deal with the triggers in life and the hang-ups, the heartbreaks. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up today and get 10% off at betterhelp.com. That's better, HELP.com. It doesn't have to be this way. It could be a better version of yourself and a better version of life. Visit betterhelp.com today. You ever Googled yourself? You may be alarmed to note exactly how much of your private information and data is out there for anybody to access. Whether it be your phone number, your home address, or details about your family. It could be your kids' names, their ages. Whether you agree to this disclosure or not. And that's because data brokers are collecting and selling your information to marketers, scammers, and basically anyone willing to pay. It's the reason robocallers know your name, and while ads seem to follow you on every digital platform out there. Well, Aura fights back for you. They remove your personal data from broker sites and keep it off. Aura also alerts you fast if your information shows up in a data breach or on the dark web. But Aura is more than just data broker removal. It's a full digital security suite that protects every part of your life online. Aura gives you a VPN to stay private, antivirus to block threats, a password manager to keep all your logins safe. They even give you spam call protection to cut off those stupid scammers. Aura also scans the dark web regularly for your most sensitive information like your social security number, bank logins, passwords, and they will notify you instantly if you are somehow exposed. If your identity is ever stolen, you're backed up by up to $5 million in insurance and 24/7 U.S.-based fraud support to help you recover everything quickly. Other services charge about the same, but they only cover one or two areas. With Aura, you get it all. Data broker removal, credit and identity monitoring, device protection, and fraud support, all with one simple app. Aura removes what is already exposed, protects what isn't, and puts you back in control. Right now, you can try Aura free for 14 days when you visit aura.com/remove. That gives them plenty of time to go ahead and start protecting your data. They can remove your personal information from data broker sites. Sign up today at aura.com/remove and get the peace of mind that your privacy, identity, and finances are all safeguarded. That's Aura, AURA.com/remove. Certain terms and conditions apply. Be sure and check it out today at aura.com. Maybe you've heard Mississippi State's own Charles Cross of the Seattle Seahawks playing in the Super Bowl. How about that? Another Bulldog possibly getting a ring here. Super Bowl is here, and that's where MyBookie helps you turn bets into bankroll. Everybody's watching the game. Everybody's got a take. Everybody's got a 7-layer dip recipe. And this is the one game where props matter just as much as the final score. That's why so many people use MyBookie. Their Super Bowl prop board is deep and fun to play. It's the same reason they get talked about on Jimmy Kimmel Live every year when this game rolls around. If there was ever time to get in, it's now. One account, one wallet, bet the spread, live bet the second half, hit the casino during commercials. It all lives in one place. Go to mybookie.ag now and use promo code BONEYARD and get your first bet covered up to $500. That's right. If it doesn't hit, use your bet back bonus token and run it back. Don't just watch the big game, make it pay with MyBookie. 32% and then 19% from 3-point. 4 of 21, right? 4 of 21. And when you're trying to catch up late and you only get one made 3-point basket, it's tough. They shot 61% from the line. We talked about that. They weren't doing a good job getting to the line. They get 23 free throws and make 14 of them. But it's so interesting. Points in the paint for them was 30, 20 off points off turnovers, and we knew that would be a bit of an issue. Bench-wise, a little bit better for them. 28 points off the bench. But you look at the Mississippi State side, 32 points in the paint, so you give as well as you take there, but 35 fast break points. I don't know that anybody expected State to be able to turn defense into offense with that level of success, and I think ultimately that proved to be the difference in the ballgame. That and State's perimeter defense. Thought we did a really good job closing that on shooters, forcing difficult shots, but man, it just felt like midway through that second quarter, it just felt like, you know what, we're gonna get this thing done. And then you just needed that third quarter to get started so you can kind of feel good, right? It's like, okay, well, I can enjoy the rest of this ball game. And there were a couple moments in the fourth where you thought maybe they'd make a run, but State had an answer every single time. And that's always great to see. Because you're not just hoping they lose, you're trying to win, right? There's a lot of times, and I think about it, it's in the history of sport, but you think about Mississippi State, how many times in any sport, if we had a lead and we're just trying to hope the clock runs out. And that was the thing I thought about last night. What made that victory and that team different is that we were trying to finish the game. We knew that we were going to have to score some baskets. Because what happens if you don't get stops, all of a sudden everybody gets fired up. That crowd gets going, and you can have the silencer when you get those big baskets late to kind of stop a bit of a run there. It just deflates the balloon a little bit. Now, ladies back in action on Sunday. 2 p.m. start against Missouri. Let's take a quick look at Missouri. And again, I'm just so excited. Yeah, and not just for the ladies. I'm excited for all of you, right? I mean, it's like a couple big basketball wins. And I say big because we've had some struggles at times this year. But we needed something to cheer about, and we've gotten it from the basketball team. Now, the ladies of Missouri, they're 14-9 on the year, 2-6 in conference, 2-3 in true road games. You feel like we ought to be able to get this one, and we're going to need you to turn out this weekend to come champion this team to a victory. Then all of a sudden you start feeling a whole lot better about the month of February. So Missouri opened up, tight win against Central Arkansas. And then they go to Tulane. They won a tight one down there by 8. They get Arkansas State with some pace, 97-75. They lose to Kansas in Kansas City, Missouri. That's a rivalry game. They lose that game by 5. They blast Southern Illinois. They lose by 18 to Troy at home. We expecting that? Didn't expect to hear that when you got up today, right? They get Washington State by 17 down in Kissimmee, Florida in the WBCA Showcase. And they stay down there. I say they stay down there. They play in Florida after this. I suspect they flew home. But they were in the Fort Myers tip-off. They get Bradley by 7, and then they knock off Northwestern by 15. So probably felt pretty good about that weekend. And then the ACC-SEC Challenge, they win a nail-biter, 68-67 over Cal. And then there's Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. They get them, and that's, we could make that a little bit easier. They get them 65-56. They lose against Illinois at home by 8. They go to St. Louis, the Billikens, and they get them easily. They blow out North Alabama. Kansas City comes in and makes it a game. The Roos only lose by 4. And then we get into SEC play. Well, they lose to Texas. A lot of teams are going to lose to Texas. Lose that game at home. They go to Kentucky, and they lose there, and that game wasn't close. Lose that one by 22. They go to Vanderbilt. Lose that game by 31. They host Alabama. They lose that one by 11. Then they host Arkansas. They get them. That's a blowout game, 94-69. They go to Florida. They drop that game by 18. They host Ole Miss, lose that game by 21, 82-61. They bounce back to get A&M, 81-70. They did not have a midweek game. So they're going to show up legs fresh, but this is a team that has not had a lot of success in league play. And a lot of those games have really not been nearly as competitive as one would hope. But let's kind of look inside the numbers a little bit here. Kind of get excited about this, man. Anytime that we beat, a marquee team like Tennessee, let's just be honest about that. One could make the case Tennessee and UConn, that's the best two teams, like in the history of women's basketball. And, of course, South Carolina is relatively new money. And all due respect, I think Don Stowey's the best coach in women's basketball. But, historically, when you think about tradition, to beat UConn, to beat Tennessee, it's still a big deal. It is, especially considering the years of futility we had against them. But we've had some great games against Missouri. They're averaging 74.5 points a game, giving up 72.5. So about a 2-point differential. And you think this deep into the schedule, if you haven't outscored opponents by more than that, considering that non-conference schedule, defense is obviously an issue. They're shooting 44.5% from the floor, giving up 40%. They have been pretty good from three-point range, though, knocking down almost 38%, giving up 31%. But about 9 three-point baskets a game. And when you go on the road, you got to find the range early, right? You got to stay in the game like that to kind of quell the crowd. Pretty good free throw line. Again, that's pretty consistent with the women's game, right at 80% for them. Rebounding has not been a strength, and this is where I think we can get after them a little bit too. Because remember, you've heard the teams they played the non-conference. They have basically out-rebounded their opponents on the year by 0.6. Yeah, so right at 38, right at 38. Yeah, just over 37 for our opponents. So rebounding, not a strength. And then what's ironic too, they've dished out 305 assists. They've allowed the same number. Yeah, it's like, again, the numbers are kind of consistent. You go through the statistics and the box score and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, all this kind of adds up to show you this is just kind of an average team. They have turned it over a lot, though. 372 on the year. That's 16 more. 16.2, which is about 4 more than their opponents. And we had a ton of turnovers last night. We were able to overcome it. But Missouri will give you the basketball. And their opponents have handled them a little bit, too, in the steals category. Opponents, 192 steals. Missouri just 154. So you look at some of these defensive categories and these ball handling stuff, it just hasn't been good for Missouri. It's been a long time since Sophie Cunningham was there. And it's so fun to be able to root for her too. I know some of y'all still hold the grudge, but I dig her. All right, Grace Slaughter leads the charge, 19.3 points per game for the Tigers. And she has been pretty good from beyond the arc, shooting about 41%. But has started all 23 games this year. Where's double out, right? So 0-0. And then there's Shannon Dowell, 15.3 points a game. And, it's interesting, too. You go back to look at Grace Slaughter, but she's kind of the straw that stirs the drink in every aspect. She leads them with 170 rebounds. Yeah, and again, this is a team that struggled at times rebounding. But, looking at these numbers, it just looks like the rotation is just not very deep. That's the first thing that pops out. It's like outside of the starters, there's just not a lot to write home about. Shannon Dowell's played 19 games, started 19. Jordana Reisma, 10.1 points per game for her, and also, pulling down about 6 boards a game. So, it's clear that it's a team effort. Chloe Sotel, 114 boards for her, 8.4 points a game. And then Jaywa Smith is like the first lady off the bench. She's pitching in 8.3 points a game. But again, basically it's been the same 6 or 7 players throughout the year that have kind of carried the weight here. So maybe we've got a little more depth in them, and we're playing at home. I like State to win the game. I'm sure you guys do as well. But the reality of this thing is that it's a chance for us to start stacking some wins. And we know what's coming later in the year. And we know what's coming next week as we go to South Carolina. Right? Now, we've gone up there sometimes and played them pretty tight. But it is South Carolina. Then we go through a stretch there where we should be able to kind of even things up a little bit. You get through South Carolina. You got Georgia here, we go to Fayetteville, and then you got Florida here. And you look at those three and you feel like, those should be games we've got a good chance to win. And, man, before you know it, man, March 1st, regular season's over. Yeah, so you start working through this thing, man. We're just 4 weeks away from the regular season being over in women's basketball. And we got to make some hay to make the tournament. Of course, winning games on the road at Tennessee certainly help matters a great deal. But again, you've got South Carolina, you got Texas, you got LSU. I mean, if you could find a way to pick off one of those, you feel really good about where you are. And bracketology kind of has stayed in. And, of course, last night's win helps. And we'll start paying a lot closer attention to that as we get closer. But I begin to think about, Valentine's Day week. Right? State is off the weekend before. After the South Carolina game, we don't have a Sunday game. Chance to get your legs back under you. And then you begin that stretch, right around Valentine's. That's where we've got to make our hay. Absolutely. And, man, going to A&M and getting a win down there would certainly help, too. So you start counting these games, right? And you start thinking, where will we need to finish? We kind of picked, just south of the Mendoza line or the median line in preseason. And I think that's probably going to prove to be pretty prophetic when it's all said and done. Again, you're 3-5 in the league right now. And so you start counting dubs here. What's possible and what's not. Well, anything can happen on any given day. But you start running through this and you think, if you get Missouri, you get Georgia, you get Arkansas, you get Florida, and you find a way to get that road win, that's 8, right? That's 8. And then, hey, you drop those 3 games to top 10 teams, and you finish there right around 500 or right at 500. You're in the tournament, and you're probably off the 8-9 line. That's probably the case there. And so we talked about that before. The schedule kind of flips for us a little bit, even though there's some big-time teams still on the schedule. But you got to feel like, hey, we're in a position now with 4 weeks to play in the regular season that we can close this thing out and find a way to make the NCAA tournament. And, of course, we're going to get some benefit because of the league that we play in, because we are typically the number 1 RPI conference, the number 1 NAT conference in women's basketball. So we got to handle our business, and then I think things will kind of take care of itself. And, again, I think the Sam Purcell thing is so incredibly interesting to me. We always heard that he would crawl through glass to get back to Auburn. And there's probably some truth in that. I mean, everybody wants to go home at some point. And, of course, his father-in-law, of course, was a legend at Auburn. People over there still love him. But it didn't work out this time. And so, and again, there's been so many people that have been so critical of Sam, but I think a lot of that is just unwarranted. And I think, Sam has kind of grown up on us a little bit too. He hasn't let this thing cascade, right? When you had the bad run, he continued to remain positive, and hey, we've won some games. And again, when we won that Kentucky game, it stopped the skid, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, we are capable of winning these games. And then you go on the road and you get get Tennessee. Then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? Maybe we're better than I thought, right? Mr. John Q. Bulldog, Mr. Casual Facebook fan. You're like, oh, it's not going to work out for us in the SEC. And I'm not going to sit here and guarantee you that it is. But I think now when you look down the stretch, the final 8 games, I would argue that you should probably win 5 of those 8. Whereas in the first half, you dropped 5 of those 8. And again, there's some booger bears out there in that schedule down the stretch. You find a way to get one of those, you feel awfully good. I think that's being a little bit ambitious, but I think we can feel good about where we are now and where things are trending. You go get this dub this weekend against Missouri, and all of a sudden, things kind of begin to set up for you a little bit too. And again, a lot of these games that are so important are going to be at home. Yeah, that's true. All right, time for our close with Blair Player of the Day. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Why do you need to know that? Well, I'm just trying to prepare you for the curveballs in life. I'm trying to prepare you for the dream of home ownership, right? Let me give you Blair's number, 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. We have had several Boneyard listeners that have closed loans with Blair and given him rave reviews for his quality of service. And you should expect that. 25 years of experience. Got his own operation now with Fairway Mortgage, right? So he's a guy that knows what he's doing, built a staff, built an office, built an operation now that kind of gives him a little more control. Now, he's dependent on good underwriters. And the reality of that is, when you've got a guy with that level of expertise, he knows how to construct loans to give you the best chance of approval. Many of you are on the hamster wheel of renting. You're never going to own anything that way. It's never going to work out. We talk about building generational wealth and things like that. Property's a great way to do it. You want to be able to leave your kids something. You do. And maybe it's the home. Whether they live in it or sell it, it's nice to be able to have that as an asset in your life. And not to mention, you don't want to live the nomad life. You want to plant some roots somewhere. So whether it's your first home, your next home, your retirement home, or perhaps that game day condo that could prove to be more affordable than you think, Blair Chandler, the only name to know. He's a Bulldog through and through. Recently married again, too. Congratulations to Blair and his lovely bride. We love them. We do. Have loved Blair for a long time. That's my boy. Love him to death. And very happy to see him happy. And that's what happens in life sometimes, right? You just got to move forward. And maybe you're in a similar situation where you've had a relationship change, a job change, or maybe some familial stuff that's going on with your parents. You want to be closer to them as they age a little bit. Let Blair do some heavy lifting and get you in the home that you deserve at closewithblair.com. Our player of the day, it's got to be Carissa Richardson, right? Has to be. Yeah, it is. And when you go on the road and you get a top 15 win, you need somebody to step up and have like a game of the year quality performance. I think you got that last night from Carissa Richardson. And again, excited and optimistic kind of about the second half of this SEC slate. We're going to need her to be big for us. And there were some times this year we just weren't sure what to expect from her. But I think she's kind of found a home here. I think Sam Purcell was putting her in a situation where she can be successful. But at the end of the day, it boils down to an individual performance. It doesn't matter how the coach positions you if you don't contribute, and she has. And that's why she's today's Close with Blair Player of the Day. Sticking with our ladies, that's going to be the theme of our top 10 list, brought to you by Kalido Guitars. Some guitar in this, right? Now, I enjoy playing. I'm not as good as I'd like to be. You know, I'd love to be able to do it like full-time for a living. Like, I'd love to be a rock star, right? Even at my advanced age, I would love to be able to climb up on stage every now and again, entertain people. It'd be wonderful. Those days are behind me, but I do enjoy playing. It's something that I do for myself, and at times I frustrate myself. But that's the challenge in that. And maybe you've thought, you know what, I want to pick the guitar up again or pick it up for the first time. You can find that beginner guitar at Kalido Guitars, at CALIDO guitars.com. Whether it's an acoustic, electric, or classical guitar, you can find everything you need, name brand, quality products at a discounted price. The level of service is absolutely exemplary. I couldn't do business with better people than I do with Kalido Guitars. I've met Daniel, we've sat down, broken bread together. He is a Bulldog through and through. And so when we began this partnership, he wanted Mississippi State to benefit as well. It wasn't just about advertising his business. It wasn't just about supporting me. It was about trying to help Mississippi State. And I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to partner with him. And I think you should partner with them too. Now, they're going to give you a promo code to give you some incentive to do just that. Whether you use it in person at their expansive showroom down in Lake Jackson, Texas, and when we go down and play baseball in Houston, maybe you should go and check that out. Yeah. I'm hoping that I get to do it too. I hope the schedule works out for me where I can do that. But you can use that promo code BSR in person, over the phone, or online. And that's going to entitle you to a series of discounts. Number one, you get a 10% discount off the already low price. That's the Ken Folks discount for listening to the show. You get no sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas. You get free shipping. And they're going to make a 5% donation to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. So there's a series of wins there. You win because you get a quality instrument at a discounted price. They win because they get more Mississippi State business. Mississippi State wins because they make that donation to the Excellence Fund. What a great opportunity for all of us to do business with Kalido Guitars. What an honor it is to have a business of that caliber affiliated with our show. So I encourage you, you will not be disappointed with the selection or the quality of service that you get from KalidoGuitars.com. All right, sticking with the ladies. That's our theme today. Songs about ladies. Now, there's no New Orleans ladies on here. You know, I know a lot of people love that song by LaRue or Louisiana LaRue. I think it's just okay, right? And we don't have any New Orleans ladies, I don't think, on the roster. So there's none of that. But there are some songs here that you're going to be very familiar with. And so we're going to run it down. Number 10. I remember this just like it was yesterday. And I was dating a young lady by the name of Jennifer from Bassfield, Mississippi, and sadly she passed away a few years ago. And but I remember our first date. We had planned it, and the day of the date she wasn't feeling great, but she didn't want to cancel, so we just went and hung out at her parents' house and just kind of visited and watched movies and all that good stuff. And I met her at a field party, and she was on a date with somebody else. And it wasn't going well. And anyway, I ended up getting her number. And I guess you could say I pulled the robbery. But I remember leaving her house, and I had just bought the Stryper album Against the Law, which a lot of you didn't like because you're like, hey, are they going to be secular now? They're not going to do Christian music anymore. Well, come on. But there's a song on there called Lady. And I just the whole way home from Bassfield to Columbia, I thought, man, I want this girl to be my girlfriend so bad. I do. She was so cute, so sweet. And it's so interesting, too. Like, she's one of those that kind of never really left. Like, she always just kind of hovered around. And I went through some difficult times, obviously, not long after that. You know, it wasn't her fault. But, when I began to kind of decided I needed to leave Columbia, she was one of the reasons I stayed as long as I did, even though that we weren't really in a committed relationship. But after I got clean and sober, and after I'd met Dana, I run into her at Blockbuster, Jennifer, that is. And so Dana and I are picking out a movie, and then eventually, I didn't say anything to Jennifer other than just kind of the casual, hey, how you doing? And then Dana walked off to look at something else, and Jennifer immediately made her way over and said, hey, you still got my number right. I was like, yeah, I do, but I never used it again. And when she passed away, her cousin reached out to me and said, I just want you to know how much she really loved you. And that's nice to hear, right? I didn't have any romantic feelings for her, but I think when you date people and you really care about them, there's always a little piece of you that enjoys that type of validation. But, wish the best for her and her son. She's passed away, but it's difficult. It is. And then when I found out, it bothered me. It did. It really did. I wish things would have worked out differently for her. Number 9, my friend Jim Winter, who was my roommate for a couple of years, and he absolutely loved the Paul's Boutique album from the Beastie Boys. You know, everybody had License to Ill, but things got a little different. And I still tell you, Eggman from Paul's Boutique is, if you don't know that song, you deserve to know that song. It's a jam, man. But the first single off the Paul's Boutique album from the Beasties was Hey Ladies. And there's that little voice, get funky. It's great. It's just fun. Number 8. This takes me back to my days of being a radio DJ. And we did a lot of this kind of stuff. And there was a great track that we've never mentioned on this show before from the band Sugarloaf. It's Green Eyed Lady, and there is this extended intro to the song, and there's this infectious bass line. It's a cool track. It is. Green Eyed Lady from Sugarloaf, number 8. Number 7, a song that was written by another artist that's going to be on our list today, but it was performed by Kenny Rogers. And the song is Lady, written by Lionel Richie, who I'm a huge fan of. And if you're not, what are you doing? I mean, come on. You got to respect the fact that Lionel Richie, one of the greatest singer-songwriters of our generation. But Kenny Rogers had a huge hit with the Lionel Richie penned song, Lady. I'm your knight in shining armor and I love you. Number 6, this song had kind of rose to prominence several years ago, again, as it was covered by Christina Aguilera and many others. But it's LaBelle's Lady Marmalade. Of course, Patti LaBelle, kind of the power behind the band LaBelle. And it was a trio, but Patti was kind of the star within the group. All of them are very good, but the powerhouse in that was LaBelle. We're talking Lady Marmalade. And when they covered that track, I was like, this is great. But what's so weird about that song to me is, we talk about the creative mind, we talk about song construction, It's just like that get you, yeah. I mean, who would have ever thought, okay, well, hey, we need a line here. Let's go with this. But it works. And then, of course, there's, the French stuff in there. It's like the song is just so wild and entertaining. So be sure to check that out, the original Lady Marmalade by LaBelle. Number 5, it's Tom Jones, another up-tempo track. I don't know, we've done a lot of Tom Jones on the show. But it's She's a Lady. From her head down to her feet, she's a lady. Right? You love it, man. You do. And that was a big thing back in the 70s. There were girls, women, but there were ladies. To be a lady was to be held in higher esteem. Number 4, great track from the Isley Brothers. It's Who's That Lady? You've heard it a million times. It was part of a Revlon or Maybelline ad campaign years ago. Who's that lady? And we've all had that moment, right, where you see somebody that can't take your breath away and you think, hey, who is that? Reminds me of when I met Dana. And we talked about this the other day. She and I did. The very first time that I saw her, I thought, oh, my gosh, she's so good looking. And I went to a guy that I knew named Larry, and I said, dude, who is that blonde? I said, she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. And he looked at me, he said, Dana? I said, oh, my gosh, her name's Dana? Oh, my gosh. And so then next time I saw her, I went up and introduced myself. And it's so funny. If you've read When the Bottom Falls, there was this moment. I was actually dating somebody else. And I say dating. We had dated, lived together for a while. I ended up I met her in rehab. What could go wrong, right? Had to go to RID program for a while, come back, the relationship strained, she's relapsed. And I'm just kind of fighting against everything, trying to keep this relationship together. And it just wasn't going to work. And when I finally realized that, I went to an AA meeting. It was packed. I bet there were 100 people there. There was one chair open in the room, right by the front door. And you think, well, what's the chances of that? And I said, hey, is anybody sitting here? And it happened to be the chair next to Dana. And I sat down there and told her all about my female troubles, all my dating troubles. And that began what has now become almost 34-year love affair. It hasn't always been easy, but it's always been worth it. All right, number 3. We couldn't get out the door on this list without including Kool and the Gang, right? It's ladies' night. And I'm feeling right. Oh, yeah. What was it? I remember, was it Tuesday night? It was ladies' night, sometimes Thursday nights. It's been a long time since I had to keep up with a bar schedule. But, ladies' night meant the girls got in free and drank for free, which means the guys had to basically pay double the cover and pay $1 extra for beer and that kind of stuff. But, it was a target-rich environment, right? So you went. That's what ladies' night's about. Number 2, we mentioned Lionel Richie earlier. And this is one of those songs that immediately changes my mood, right? It's just, number 1, I love Lionel Richie. I love the Commodores. And to be honest with you, as much as I like the Lionel Richie solo stuff, I like the Commodore stuff better. I think Commodores as a band, incredible. Absolutely incredible. And even after he left, we had the Night Shift and there's some other tracks that were just incredible. But to me, kind of the quintessential song from Commodores is Lady. And I remember being a kid. I was maybe 3rd or 4th grade. We had the Christmas parade in Columbia. And the Alcorn State Marching Band came. And they played Lady from the Commodores. And it was like the biggest thing. It was a big deal for us that a college band was there. It just didn't make any difference to us who it was. But we just felt so special that Alcorn State came. And they were playing Lady from the Commodores, and they were like people that just followed along with them, walked along the parade route because they were so good, so talented in playing this incredibly talented band song, signature song, Lady. And I think Lionel's vocal on this is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But number 1, and this is something we joked about too over the years, is Jimi Hendrix's Foxy Lady. Now, I've always loved Jimi Hendrix. As long as I have known who Jimi Hendrix was from a young age, I have loved Jimi Hendrix because there's just something magnetic about Jimi Hendrix. But when Wayne's World came along, and a lot of people, immediately when I say Wayne's World, you think Bohemian Rhapsody, right? But the scene in the donut shop, when Donna Dixon comes in, who was also in Spies Like Us, and Garth sees her, and then he does a little dance, the Foxy Lady from Hendrix. That gave that song new life to a new generation. it's a wild scene, man. Wayne's World, like I don't think people fully appreciate maybe the contribution that the Wayne's World movies made to popular culture. I mean, honest to goodness, there's a lot of one-liners and stuff. So you young bucks out there, if you haven't watched Wayne's World, my kids were raised on Wayne's World. You need to check it out. And what's so interesting about that too is when I was getting ready to go to the RID program, like we had to wait around to report, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And so it was getting time. We didn't know for sure. And it was like 10 days before Wayne's World came out. It was like 10 days. I could not wait to watch it. We had to report to the RID program February 13th, and the movie came out that weekend, so I didn't get to see it. So the first thing that, once Dana and I started dating, we were broke as the Ten Commandments, right? So it was a lot of Blockbuster, a lot of microwave popcorn, that sort of stuff. But it was just about being together. And so I had to get caught up on all these movies I missed when I was in the RID program. And Wayne's World was the first one. And I think we watched it 3 times back to back. And it's so interesting. We were talking about this the other day, and I was so like, I said, it was so great because Dana had seen some of these movies. And she goes, I really hadn't seen that many of them. And I said, well, I hadn't seen Boys in the Hood because I was locked up. And so kind of getting caught up on that, those were like the early stages of our relationship together. We lived this little, you call it an efficiency apartment, man. I mean, like our apartment back then wouldn't fit in our living room now. It was so small you couldn't even get a couch in there. It was just like a love seat and like an occasional chair and a coffee table and like a TV stand. That's it. That's all there was. And so we sat on that love seat every night. We watched Blockbuster, and we just hung out together and got to know each other. And so that's what, when I think about Hendrix and Foxy Lady, it takes me back to Wayne's World, which then takes me back to a time where I was kind of finding my stride in life and finding where I was supposed to be. And the thing that I have learned about that aspect of it is there's a lot of things out there that are stressors that kind of rob you of happiness. And there's so many stressors in life. And like I was so young, and I had already been in drug rehab. I had already been flushed out of music. I had already been to jail. And so it had been an eventful couple of years. And it just felt good to just be like a normal dude, right? I'm just a normal guy getting up, going to work every day. I got this hot chick, that, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. I got this beautiful woman that seems to really like me and wants to spend all her free time with me. And we saw each other every day for 3 years. Every day for 3 years. Just I couldn't stand to be away from her. And that's part of it too. Even when our schedules didn't match. She was working at the Shell station on Hardy Street, right there at the 49 Hardy Street interchange. That Shell's still there. And I would at least go by there and see her. Like if I was in town on my way to an AA meeting or after an AA meeting or whatever, I would go by and see her and just get my hug. And I just had to see her every day. I did. And I still feel that way, right? I mean, it helps when you're married, you get to see each other every day. But even all these years later, like when I hear the dogs bark because she's pulling up a driveway, I get excited. I do. And I listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's all been, pancakes and blueberries. I mean, some days, and you go through some phases in life where maybe you get distracted on other stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm very grateful to be with who I am and who I am. And I hope that you are similarly situated. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up my friend, Roy Samanthi, who has been rolling these lists out pretty quickly on Spotify. You can find him on Twitter and on Spotify at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC67. And you can find me on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, we love them. We do. And I love them as people, too. I don't just love them as the proprietors of Mississippi State Merge. Just good people. Man, just good people. That's the thing you think about, right? I want to do business with good people when I can. And I love supporting Campus Bookmart. And I love the fact that we've been partners for so many years. And I love the fact that so many of you learned about Campus Bookmart on this show. So stop by and see their smiling faces the next time you're in town and peruse all of their selections of the latest of Mississippi State merch. Whether you need apparel, whether you need gift ideas, whether you need everything to detail out your fan cave, you can find it at Campus Bookmart. Miss Kathy Brown, she outfits that store so incredibly well. It's so great to go in there. Like I just wish, I wish I had more money, right? I'd go buy you all something, It's just because I go in there and I want to have it all. And so when you're looking for something for that Bulldog in your life, don't overthink it. Just get them some Mississippi State merch and get it from Campus Bookmart. We'll give you some incentive to do so. If you can't make it to town, or perhaps game day is a difficult shopping day for you, visit them on the World Wide Web, courtesy of Al Gore's Internet at campusbookmart.net. And by using this promo code BSR, Beautiful Steve Robertson, that gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. All right, we needed this thing. We needed it, right? The win over LSU, I'm going to say it's a big win just because of the fact we needed to stop the schneid, right? But we also needed to have a little something to cheer about. It's been a frustrating year. Bulldogs now 11-10 and 3-5 in the SEC. We needed to find a way to get that dub, and it's so tough to get a road win. But it is apparent to, I think, everybody that Matt McMahon's days in Baton Rouge are numbered. Bulldogs win this thing 80-66, and man, at halftime it just kind of felt like this thing is, it's going to go the way we want it to go. And how many times have we gotten that first half lead and not been able to close? They do outscore us there in the second half by 9, but State was up by so many. And it just felt like every time, kind of like the women's game, like every time that LSU made a little bit of a run, we would answer. So great. Josh Hubbard leads you with 15 points, and for some reason, he just has LSU's number. It wasn't his best shooting night, as you guys know. He was 4 of 12 from the floor, only hit 1 3. But 6 of 7 from the line, and was really a facilitator for us. Handed out 3 assists. But it just kind of felt like they knew you got to stop 12. You got to find a way to slow him down, and he still leads us in scoring. I remember last time he went down there, he absolutely destroyed him. One of the better games in maroon and white for Quincy Ballard, and how encouraging was that to see. 13 points, 9 rebounds, so nearly a double-double. And only played 23 minutes, but he was a perfect 5 of 5 from the floor. And 3 big offensive rebounds. Jabari McGee with 11 points, too. I really thought down the stretch that Jaden Epps hit some big shots for us, too. He came off the bench, 9 points. All of his made baskets were of the 3-point variety. But it's like you look at this, it was just a total team victory. It was a contribution from everybody. Sean Jones, I thought, had some big moments offensively. He's primarily a defender, but man, the big alley-oop there, and he hit a big 3 late for 8 points. But it felt like it was probably close to our most complete game of the year. And again, LSU's not great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and oversell LSU. They're now 1-7 in the Southeastern Conference. But, Davis Fleming's been really good for us, and we think he's going to be a star. We didn't get any points from him. He only attempted 1 shot. But I thought he played good defense and pulled down some big boards. But, man, King Grace, we're starting to see this young man really kind of grow and mature. 8 points for him in this ball game, 3 of 4 from the floor. But it just kind of felt like every time you turned around, he was getting caught doing the right thing. That big block on the run out, you think this is over, it's going to be an empty basket. But he wouldn't give up on the play, and he ends up swatting it. And it was incredible. It was one of those moments, too, where we needed a little bit of juice, even though the game was pretty much decided. We had some killer instinct down the stretch, and I thought that made the difference. We didn't just coast there in the second half. Typically, when you shoot 51% in SEC games, you're going to win. That's kind of how it worked out for us. And we were really good from beyond the arc, almost 48%, 70% from the line. The Bulldogs 32 points in the paint, just 4 off turnovers. Give LSU some credit for getting back on defense. But, 27 points off the bench, too. That always helps to get that type of contribution. You remember Michael Nwoko, of course, transferred down there. And to be honest with you, all due respect to Michael, he didn't play well at Mississippi State. And when I saw that LSU was excited about having him, I said it's going to be a tough year. Just 4 points for him. Did start the game, played just 17 minutes, but Mississippi State, really good job against him. Leading scorer was Max McKinnon. We expected that to be the case. He had 15 points. But really good perimeter defense for the Bulldogs. They held LSU to 4 of 20 from three-point land. They shot 43% as a team and just at 52% from the free throw line. So, win, and you feel a little bit better about life. Now, we got to hit the road Saturday, 2:30 tip from Columbia, Missouri. And again, you start thinking about the schedule flipping a little bit. Maybe we can make a run at this thing. Let's kind of break down what the Tigers have done this year. We knew we were going to have put some road work in to kind of turn this thing around, and we got an opportunity to do it. And we just have to approach this thing one at a time, right? One game at a time. We can't start thinking about what happens next month. You just got to focus on what's ahead. Now, the Tigers have been very, very good at home. Just 12-1, just the one loss at home. 4-4 in the conference, so kind of right there with us in that respect. But again, very good at home. So we're going to have to go out there and play a good game. That can be a difficult arena, Mizzou Arena. But looking back at what they've done this year, they open up in Washington D.C. with a blowout win over Howard. They get SEMO. They get Virginia Military Institute. Power 4 win at home against Minnesota. I don't know if you keep up with the Golden Gophers, but anytime that you get a Power 4 win at home, that's always a good thing. They blast Prairie View A&M. They get South Dakota, nearly double them up. Blow out South Carolina State. Cleveland State. They lose at Notre Dame 76-71. So kind of an ambitious call there. They go to Kansas for the rivalry game and get blown out by 20. They're in the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City, Missouri. So non-conference schedule had been kind of weak, and then all of a sudden they play, some Power 4 teams with a pulse. They drop those games. They blow out Alabama State, Bethune-Cookman. They get just shelled in St. Louis by Illinois, 91-48. Get an SEC play. Win over Florida. That's a loud win, right? Florida was number 22 at the time. You get them by 2. You go to Lexington, you drop that one by 5, and you're like, okay, well, maybe they're better than we thought. They go to Oxford, lose by 7. So these games are competitive. They bounce back and get a dub over Auburn by 10, lose at LSU. Same team we just placed. And then they lose to Georgia, beat Oklahoma by 1. They go to Tuscaloosa and get beat 90-64, and now here we are. So they've lost one game in a row, and we'll kind of dig inside the numbers here and just kind of see what to expect here. And I would argue this is probably the biggest game on the schedule so far, just because of where we are and where it lands on the schedule. And you're just trying to pick up some momentum here. You're just trying to kind of stack some dubs here and then kind of see where things go. They're averaging about 80 points a game, giving up about 74, outscoring teams by about 6.5. And again, you look at the non-conference schedule and you look at the SEC play. They've given up some points in SEC play, but they have been largely competitive. Shooting almost 50% from the floor, giving up 42%, 35% from beyond the arc. They've also been somewhat susceptible to the three-point basket, giving up over 36 per game, 36%, but about 10 three-pointers per game. So we're going to need Hub and Ebbs both to be on. Missouri knocking down just over 7. And not a great free throw shooting team, about 67%. So that's something to kind of watch too if we push them to the line. Rebounding hasn't necessarily been a strength. They're out rebounding teams by about 5 per. And you get an SEC play, that number comes down a little bit. But handed out 14.5 assists per game, giving them about 13. They will turn the basketball over, and that's kind of been the story of this team. Just, ball security, not a strong suit. Turning it over about 13 times a game and forcing just about 11.5. So they're turning it over more than they're creating on the turnover side. They do have 149 steals. That's 7 per, and they're giving up a little over 6 per. And they will get their hands in the air, but they have not been a dominant team in post defense, about 3.5 per game in the blocks. Let's go ahead and look at some individual numbers here just to kind of prepare you. Mark Mitchell, number 25, leads the team with 17.4 points per game. He's also been good on the boards too. Pulled down 115, which leads the team. So in every offensive statistical category, Mark Mitchell's name is somewhere near the top. He has started all 21 games. Jaden Stone has been in and out of the lineup some, hadn't played a whole lot. but 14.9 points per game for him. Jacob Cruz, part-time starter. He's appeared in all 21 games, started 11, has 11 points. And the guy that's been pretty good on the glass, too, pulling down 91 rebounds, 32 of the offensive end. Anthony Robinson, the second, 9.3 points per game. But see, you kind of work through this, and the lineup, kind of like ours, hasn't really been settled. They've only got one guy that has started every game, and that's Mark Mitchell. Robinson started 19. Sean Phillips has started 19. But it's a team that is kind of, mixed and matched a little bit. So we'll see how things kind of progress in that respect. But, again, this is a game that I think we can go up there and win. And all of a sudden you win two big road games, like that LSU game ends up being a quad one win for us. So that's a net climber for us. And then you got a stretch here where you start thinking about, hey, maybe we could make a run. And Chris Jans has done that multiple times at Mississippi State. Last year, not so much. We didn't close out. I think we were just kind of fatigued. But with the season kind of hanging in the balance here, the schedule, again, is a little more favorable. And just to kind of spell it out for you, you got to go to Missouri, and then you get back-to-back home games. No midweek game next week, but we get Arkansas coming in, and then we get Tennessee coming in. Now, all of a sudden, you start thinking about that, right? Let's say you win this Saturday and you protect your home court. All of a sudden, you put together a 4-game winning streak headed to Oxford, a team that we know we should have defeated before. And then Auburn maybe hadn't been what many people thought they would be. You got to go to South Carolina. The trip to Tuscaloosa is never fun. And then there's Missouri, the trip to Florida, and then Georgia. And so you look down the stretch here and you start thinking, State should be in a position, if we play to our potential, that we should win more than we lose down the stretch. You're 3-5 in conference play, but again, you look at how things maybe flip a little bit for you down the stretch. And we knew that, hey, we didn't have that murderer's row to start SEC play, but this league is always a bit of a bear. It's like you win that game at Austin, you beat Oklahoma, you're off to 2-0 start, and you think, hey, maybe we'll be okay. Well, then you get Kentucky, Alabama, and you drop that game against Ole Miss that you shouldn't. And then obviously the games against A&M and Vanderbilt weren't good. But you just never know what this Mississippi State team is going to look like. You just simply never know. And when we find an offensive weapon that kind of gives Josh Hubbard a chance to create, off the bounce, things are different. When Josh is relegated to having to get rid of the basketball because teams are double teaming him, somebody has to step up, and they hadn't always done that. And so that's kind of where we are. But I'm not going to sit here and give you any code of conduct and say you should prepare for the tournament. I still don't think we make the tournament. But I do believe there is the opportunity down the stretch for us to make some noise and maybe sneak in. We always wanted to get off that 8-9 line. I think at this point we would absolutely take that just to be happy to extend the streak. But we've got to continue to build upon this. And again, you lost 5 straight before you beat LSU, who's not great. But basketball is a fun game. All of a sudden, you start getting a little juice. You start getting a little confidence. You have some younger guys kind of understand where they are, that they can play at this level, like King Grace and Davis Fleming. You start having some of those young guys make a contribution. It makes you harder to defend, and also extends the rotation a little bit. So, again, road game tomorrow. Be sure and tune in for that. Many of you will be home, and it's so crazy to think about. Thankfully, we're not expected to have any precipitation in our forecast, for some time here. I guess Tuesday, we'll have the warm front coming in. But wind chill this weekend is expected to be in the single digits in Starkville. Yeah, so we're going to remain under freezing in the overnight lows for about 4 more days. And so for those of us that still have, ice in the area, it's just going to complicate those recovery efforts for our friends up in northwest Mississippi. And so, again, our thoughts and prayers are with them. But it'd be a good day tomorrow to just kind of stay home and watch some college basketball. And I hope that you get a chance to do that, and hopefully your Bulldogs can pull out a win. We're going to have to play well. Anytime that you put on that dark colored jersey and go into somebody else's home arena that's hungry for a dub, especially a team that's been really good at home, you're going to have to play well. And the zoo will be rocking as the students are all back on campus and everything's excited and the semester started. And so it'll be a raucous atmosphere. If you're a Bulldog in that area, we encourage you to get out and go support the team. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none. We've stayed there. It's great. It's great. Like you don't even know how nice a place it is, and how that you didn't realize that you had a place with these kind of amenities available to you in the Golden Triangle area. It's the old renovated Country Club Clubhouse out past the Highlands on 182, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You can do your tailgating right there. You get the full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the back porch area, that fire pit area, which means so much this time of year, right? 6 bedrooms, 2, soon to be 3 baths. Plenty of room for everybody to just kind of stretch out, enjoy each other, because it's not just the big moments, it's the in-between moments that have the biggest impact, right? It's the opportunity for you to just kind of sit and just kind of recreate with the people you love the most. Make some memories today. Be sure and Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, like their Facebook page pops up and you can look at all the amenities that are available to you and your guests. Also be some booking options pop up. You can book through Airbnb or VRBO if you'd like. Maybe you've got a credit with them. Maybe that's your preferred vendor. I don't know. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's BSR10, the number 10. Get you 10% off your stay. And again, we've stayed there. We plan to do it again. Stayed there New Year's 25 and just had a blast. My mom loved it. She loved being able to have everybody under one roof. All my kids, the grandkids. We don't get together enough, and we all say that. You need to be a linchpin in your friend or family group and begin to make some plans yourself. Just go find the dates and say, hey, these are the available dates. When do you guys want to go? We're going to make a great trip and go make some memories together. You'll be glad you did. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none. We talk so much about family stuff on this show because family matters. It does. And, one of the things that I have learned as an empty nester is, the fam chat can make you a little bit lazy, right? And so I've made it kind of a point to have like at least a monthly call with my kid, every one of them, right? Like this morning, I get up and I text everybody, tell them how much I love them individually, and tell them how proud I am of them. And the thing that I've learned is even though I have raised my children, they still need me. And I don't just mean financially, but they need you for the emotional, mental support that only a parent can provide. And it's so, we talk about my daughter sometimes on the show, and I got 2 beautiful, talented daughters. One, of course, is a Mississippi State educated computer engineer. And it's so incredible to me. One of the things I told my girls growing up is I did not want them to ever be in a situation that they were dependent on some man financially, right? When you're in a relationship, there is a level of dependence. But I never wanted my girls, and of course my grandchildren, to be forced to stay in a bad marriage because of survival. I wanted them to be able to get jobs where they could be independent if they needed to be, and they could take care of themselves and their family. And so I've got a computer engineer, and I'll soon have an attorney. And we're excited. Mia, the youngest, the one that's at Harvard Law, will be in New York City this weekend interviewing with her dream firm for her second-year internship. And she's already got some things lined up for the summer. And it's just fun to see your kids fly. But one of the things that I think is important to understand is you're still mom and dad, right? And the relationship changes a little bit when they become more independent. But I'm a firm believer in the garbage in, garbage out mentality. And I can tell you, I don't always agree with my kids politically. We have very different opinions at times on social issues. And I didn't raise my kids to be robots. But the thing that I've learned about that aspect of it is if they never hear from me and hear what I think, not that I'm trying to enforce my beliefs on them, where are they getting their influence from? Right? So I may not be the guy that pays for everything anymore. I may not be the guy that ensures that their oil gets changed, right? Or, the guy that sits them down and tells them when they've run out of bounds. But I still have a role within their lives. And a lot of that is not just advisory, but it's love and support. And I would encourage you, if you have grown kids, and even if you don't, and one of the things that I think is so important is, and I tell, like Elijah Magnum just got married. I don't know if you guys know that. And I offered him a few tips. And I do this all the time when I see our young guys get married. And one of the things I think is so important in marriage is, like, you tell her every day how beautiful she is and how much you love her. Every day. Do it every single day. Every single day. And make a big deal out of her birthday, whether she wants you to or not. Don't make her worry. Take trips, make memories together. And sometimes making those memories is just curling up on the couch and just kind of hanging out watching TV, and just being together and being close and having those bonding experience and letting that, letting that dopamine rush hit, I'm talking about. But again, I think it's just so incredibly important to understand while your role as a parent changes, you still have a role. You still have a sense of importance in their lives. Let's jump into some baseball stuff. My family is baseball crazy. So my bride, every single Mississippi State game day, and she wears a Mississippi State baseball jersey to work at the spa every single time because we love baseball. We do. And it's so funny. She's like, I cannot wait for baseball. She's like, she's, babe, it's almost February. It's almost here, And I've joked with you guys before, back when our schedules were different, we got to spend a lot more time together in the evenings. She'd impress me. She'd say, hey, I see that, like, Kentucky is playing, like, Murray State. Don't we play Kentucky in a couple weeks? I'm like, yeah. Well, let's watch them tonight. Let's watch them. Let's watch Minge. Let's go see what Kentucky looks like. She has to do her advanced scouting. So that's a fun part of life. But DraftKings released their odds to win the Southeastern Conference. So I thought we'd talk about that a little bit today. I'm working on a project that's going to take maybe another week. To kind of, it's one of those things, you put some data points in, and it's all very speculative, but it's basically to give us a chance to see how the SEC will play out based on last year's numbers, portal class, strength of schedule, all that kind of stuff. You'll learn more about it when I write it, but we're seeing some injuries around the league, so that kind of tweaks things a little bit. So waiting for the full rosters to be released. That'll happen here in the next few days. So maybe next week we'll get this piece finished up for you. Always working on something. But the longest odds to win the Southeastern Conference Baseball Regular Season Championship, who would you bet? Well, it'd be Missouri, right? Yeah. It's 10,000 to 1. And they didn't do a lot in the portal. They'll be a little bit better. Like, they had some big injuries last year. Like Lunsford transferred out, and the guy they expected to be Friday night had Tommy John, and then the Horn was banged up too. And so they're going to finish last in the league again. 15th longest odds to win the SEC, Oklahoma, 2,800 to 1. And then right there above them, Alabama and Ole Miss are tied at 2,000 to 1. This kind of surprises me a little bit, but I think some of it is a product of the schedule. Auburn, 1,900. Vanderbilt. And here's the thing, like, Vanderbilt is going to be able to pitch it. I don't know if they have a ton of offensive stars. Now, those left-handed hitters should have some advantage this year because they've moved the fences in 15 feet. We can't compete in the NIL era, so let's move the fences in, right? Corbin's a great coach. He truly is. But I just don't think they're especially talented from a positional standpoint, and I think Vegas agrees with us. Now we get into some more potential, maybe. That's right. I guess I've skipped around a little bit here. I didn't read this graphic correctly. So let me get you caught up here. So we talked about, Missouri, the longest odds, then South Carolina at 6,500. And then Oklahoma, 2,800, Kentucky, 2,500. And then Florida, A&M, Ole Miss, and Alabama all right there together. And then there's Auburn, plus 1,900 for them. Just ahead of them is Mississippi State. And again, I don't think that's a commentary on our talent. I think it's the schedule itself. We've got, I think, arguably the number 2 most difficult schedule in the Southeastern Conference, right? They have Vanderbilt right ahead of us, which we will wax Vanderbilt. I expect to win that series. Again, I think Vanderbilt's going to have a really good weekend rotation, provided they can keep everybody healthy. I don't know what the back of that bullpen looks like. And again, I don't think they're going to have a ton of offensive stars, but we get that game here too. I actually would pick State over Vandy, and I expect to finish ahead of them. And I think Vandy's probably 15-15, 16-14. I think we're probably 18-12, 19-11, something like that. Then there's Texas at plus 700. I think that might be a little bit low. I like the Texas team. I may like them better than some other people do. I know they're ranked really high, and I'm sold on them. I think Schloss will have them ready to go. But Volantis is just one of those guys. I know a lot of people saw him last year in Starkville, and you didn't kind of keep up. But, like, if you go back and look at what he did last year at Texas, Texas doesn't win the SEC without Volantis. Now, what's his role this year? I don't know. He pitched against us twice last year. The kid is really, really good. But he's not the only piece in that pitching staff. And they're going to be able to swing it. They get some of their big series at home. That's going to be an important part of this thing, too. And then there's Tennessee. And I'm not on the Tennessee bandwagon. I think they're going to be good. They're not going to be great. You don't lose one of the best coaches in college baseball and the pitching coach. I know you went out and added Ford and some guys like that. And, what does Josh Allender do now that he's the one pulling the strings? I think Tennessee takes a step back. I think everybody agrees it's going to happen. I think it proves to be a more dramatic step than people think. I don't know if you know this. Like Tennessee, Lindsey Nelson is the smallest ballpark in the SEC. Right? It truly, if you maybe didn't know that, but it's true. Everybody's like, oh, they're so great offensively. And they are, and some of that power has traveled over the years. But they get to play a lot of good series at their place. And that's why I think it shows what a great job Frank Anderson has done prior to him leaving to go to the big leagues. But it's one of those things you look at and say, hey, we got to play in that same park. And so you learn how to pitch the park, though. But, like, looking at Tennessee here, as we get into, we'll see them out at Globe Life. And again, I can't wait to get out there. I mean, it's going to be some really good baseball. And we'll get a chance to see a lot of great teams. But, like Tennessee, they're going to go to Foley Field. They open up SEC play at the launching pad that is Foley Field in Athens. And again, I think that's one of the reasons. Georgia, for some reason, just cannot find it in SEC play late, and they have not been able to find it in the postseason. And I think a lot of it's because the weather, right? It gets hotter, the ball carries more. Then they get Missouri at home, right? You'd like that to be a road series because you feel like you could take that and probably sweep it. Well, then you got to go to Vanderbilt. Well, that's the second smallest park in the SEC now, right? So you begin to think about offensive numbers early on and how gaudy it could be. Granted, you're playing Georgia in March, but that's a launching pad. It's a very offensive park. Missouri, you get that play, you get them at your place, and they're going to be so bad on a mound. You ought to be able to wreck through that. And again, offensive numbers should blow. And then you go to Vandy, another offensive park. So right out of the gate, you start thinking, okay, Tennessee, man, look at what they're doing offensively. Remember, I told you this when we get to around the first part of April, because you're going to play in some really hitter-friendly parks. Well, then, as we get into April, LSU comes in. So again, Tennessee against a very offensive team, and Alex Box, of course, especially when you get into mid-April, the month of May, the ball really carries there. But you get them at your place. Right? And so you feel like, hey, we need Tennessee to probably pick off a game or two from them. Then Tennessee comes to Duty Noble. Then they host Ole Miss in the smallest park in the SEC against a team that, outside of Hunter Elliott's got some question marks pitching-wise. Then Alabama comes in to the smallest park in the SEC. Then you got to go to Kentucky, but it's May, right? It's not like playing them in March. The ball to right field is going to carry a little bit too, and then you get Texas at your place, right? So again, you get LSU in Texas at Lindsey Nelson, and it'll be good crowds. Then you got to go to OU, and that closes it out. And so I think the schedule is favorable to Tennessee, but I don't think it's going to speak to the quality of the team. I think they take a step back. I don't think they're going to be a great postseason team. That's my feeling today. Arkansas, plus 500. And I don't know if you guys have checked out the Arkansas schedule. It is probably the easiest in the league. Now, you could make a case that maybe they're second, but this is a schedule. Like we talked about how great our schedule was last year and that Lamanos needed to take full advantage of it, and he didn't. I never, ever, ever, ever bet against Dave Van Horn. But, they're going to open up in the Shriners thing out in Arlington at Globe Life. That's going to be a fun weekend of baseball. And the good thing is a lot of those games are in the evening. So when you get your Mississippi State feel, you can go watch Arkansas play against some quality teams. But when we get into SEC play, of course, we got to go up there first. So it's going to be a little chilly, right? First weekend in March. And, last time we went up there, we should have won the series. And they've got good 1-2 punch on the mound, and then we'll see. But if you can get that Friday game or get that Saturday game, you got to get it. So then they get us. Then they go to South Carolina. That's a good road series to have. Well, then you get Florida coming to your place. And I think, again, Florida's going to be talented, but, kind of what's happening with Florida. Glad to get that one in Fayetteville. You got to go to Auburn. I think that'll be a war of a series. You go to Alabama. I think Alabama's a little bit overinflated. Then you got Georgia coming to your place, so you don't have to go to Foley and play there in mid-April. Then you go to Missouri, right? Crazy. Then Ole Miss comes to Fayetteville. Then Oklahoma comes to Fayetteville. You go to Kentucky, and again, it's in May. And just think about that. What names did we not mention? No Tennessee, no LSU, no Texas, right? You start running this thing back and you realize Arkansas may have a great record and not have a great team just because they got the dream of a schedule. Georgia, second best pick at plus 450. I think that's a joke. And a lot of that I think is just based on the fact that they have been a good regular season team. And so you look at it and say, well, maybe this is the year they do it. People forget 2 years ago we tied with Georgia. Tied with them and beat them head-to-head. We tied in the standings and beat them head-to-head. They got the host. We didn't because of those 4 quad 4 losses. And, of course, the odds-on favorite to win the SEC is LSU. Now, I don't know that I'm on board with that either. LSU lost a lot of pieces, but it's one of those things, too. I think LSU's schedule is a little more difficult than people maybe are kind of jumping on board with. And I shared that just because you don't want to play LSU in Baton Rouge in May. You just don't. You don't want to do it because the wind patterns change. You love to play them in March before the wind shift. And their non-conference schedule is nothing. I mean, it's truly nothing. So they're going to rack up some big numbers. We'll probably be the number 1 team in the country when we get into SEC play. But you got to go to Vandy to open SEC play. Going to be chilly, right? Ball's not going to carry as well. But, what happens with that right field porch? Then you got Oklahoma coming in to Baton Rouge. Picked in the bottom half of the league. Then they get Kentucky at Alex Box. And, it's like they're eating up these home series in March, and I kind of like that aspect of it. Then they go to Tennessee. We'll see what happens there. And I think this LSU team is going to be physical. Then they go to Ole Miss. And, again, I know Ole Miss is picked towards the bottom half of the league, but Bianco always gets those guys up to play. Then you get A&M in Baton Rouge. Then you got to come to Starkville. Then you get South Carolina. Then you got to go to Georgia. Then Florida comes in late. And as you guys know, Florida always seems to heat up when the temperature does. I think that LSU-Florida series will be absolutely wild, right? Because you never know what Sully and those guys are going to be playing for. You never know what the team's going to look like. But I think LSU's schedule is very manageable, but they've got some interesting road series that I think could be somewhat problematic. But you can't ever bet against the Tigers. I mean, they're the standard right now and have been for a while. And, of course, they're back to being LSU, right? Those pulmonary years, it got a little bit, dicey a little bit late. And I still don't think they should have got in the tournament that last year that he was there. But it was kind of a gentleman's gift, I guess you could say. But Jay Johnson doing a great job at LSU, and they've become incredibly portal reliant, but he's making it work for himself. How can you argue against it? 2 of the last 3 national championships, right? Is that right? 2 of 3? Yeah. Anyway, so you can't knock it. You absolutely cannot knock it, and so that's how Vegas sees it. People have asked me, Steve, how do you rank the SEC? Well, that's one of the reasons that I'm doing this exercise, not just doing it off the looks test, but kind of doing some analytics too to kind of maybe support it. But you know what? When we get ready to play and all of a sudden you have a transfer guy that shows up and takes over, you have a guy that maybe finds a new home, or you have a guy that's a big freshman arm that you weren't expecting, things can always change. That's why we play the games in the first place. But I'm excited for us to get into college baseball. And I think you guys are as well, not just because there's so much anticipation around this Mississippi State team. I think we're just so hungry to win, and we want to be really, really good at something. But don't be surprised, due to the nature of the schedule, if we end up like 18-12 in the SEC. I think anything above that, you feel thrilled with. And if you win 20 games, you're going to be in contention to win the regular season championship. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean as much. You just want to be a top 8 national seed. That's a bigger goal than winning the SEC regular season title. All right, if you hadn't done so, go to DutyNobleBook.com. You can get signed copies of all my sports titles. Of course, that's Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dog Pile. Every Bulldog needs that. And The Dude, probably the book that I learned the most writing. That's Stark Villains, probably those two. A lot of historical stuff in there you probably don't know about Mississippi State. You probably don't know the story about how some donors basically wrecked the football program and nearly the entire athletic department. And then they tried to get Duty Noble fired, and then when President Mitchell wouldn't fire him, they tried to get Mitchell fired. It went all the way to the state legislature to bring investigations, and it was our own people. And the whole thing was very Shakespearean. So you can read all about that, Trouble in the House of Noble. But yeah, I had a lot of fun writing that book, and of course, we're working on some other stuff now, and I've always got something going on, but we'll have some dates for you pretty soon. I told you I'm writing a children's book next, and then we'll get back on the Mississippi State side of doing some other things. So yeah, it'll be a busy year for you, boy. And with business comes the need to float, and you can come float with us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. It's not like floating in your pool, right? Because you're going to float effortlessly. Because we got 1,200 pounds of Epsom salt in there. The salinity in our pods is higher than the Dead Sea. So you can just lay back and float and relax. It's a very new experience for you. Allows your mind to rest, allows your body to rest. Because you're not fighting gravity. Because like we're standing up, you got all these neurons firing to make sure that you stay upright. Well, when you get in the pod, those resources can be used somewhere else. And it's been a game changer for me. Made my life a lot less stressful. And it's good to let my mind be able to rest. And so if you're a person that just needs a break, or maybe you've got chronic anxiety or chronic pain, we may be able to help you. No guarantees in life, but we've helped many others. And if nothing else, just kind of doing something for yourself, improving the quality of your sleep, man, it's great. So come check us out at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. You can dial 662-268-7601. Speak directly to my lovely bride, Dana. She can answer any questions you may have and get you on your schedule. And you can book online, too. You can just go to TrueRest.com, and you can just book online. Maybe you don't need any questions answered. You just want to go book, you can. And this is the last weekend. If you buy a membership this month through the January 31st, you get 30 days of unlimited floating. 30 days, unlimited. As long as we have a spot, you can come. And we've got some people that have taken advantage of it. We've got one lady that's floated every day this week, right? And that month doesn't count against your membership. You get 30 days unlimited, and then your membership starts, right? And so that's a cool thing. And if you think you're going to float once a month, just the basic membership is like $65, and because like it's cost $89 to float, but you lock it in at $65, and you can float once a month for $65. And how much is your peace of mind and your quality of sleep worth, right? Come join us over at genespage.com, the premier Mississippi State media entity, the largest Mississippi State media entity in the history of our fine university. We encourage you to come be a part of our merry band of Maroon Misfits. Hey, you guys have a great weekend. Bundle up, take care of each other. Don't get out and travel unless you have to. And, we're going to make it through this. And again, for those of you that are still dealing with this, you don't have power. We got some people on our message board that have kind of kept us updated and kind of what's going on in their lives. We love and support each of you and wish you the absolute best. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.